So, praise, evening praise, and welcome. So today, we are going to be working on like a very, very fast pace. I want to make this as short as possible, but we're still going to leave here with something today. So, I want to welcome us to today's session, and let's see how fast we can go. So today we're just going to look at the mini project that we worked on that was sent out 2 weeks ago. Because some persons reached out to me and they were still asking questions on how to get to a third normal form, on how to get to a third normal form from a flat file, or using business questions to create a database schema, a normalized database schema. So I said we're going to look at it and we're going to discuss more on that today. So today we'll just be looking at how to go from the flat file to the third normal form, and also to the star schema. So this is just like an re-explanation of what we have done previously. So before we commence, I would like to know um anyone that submitted the assignments here. Let me know. Marvelous, Raphael, Praise, and Oarabile. If any of you submitted the assignments, the mini projects, please just show of hands. Let me know. Okay, Marvelous did. Praise. All right. Okay. Oarabile, yes. Raphael, you didn't.
No, I didn't. I've not been able to.
All right. Okay, no problem. So, for those that submitted, I want to know where exactly did you find challenging before I proceed. Marvelous, maybe you go first. Did you find any of the parts, any of the questions difficult or challenging? Let me know where you faced or you found challenging.
All right, man. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So
Good evening.
actually, I didn't really find it challenging. When I started, I was thinking about how to group the data into different tables. But I later figured it out, watching the video, trying to. I realized that when creating a third platform, one has to like create another identity for a particular table that is missing so that every table will have its own distinction from each other. So I really do find it challenging as much as I expected. Thank you.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Praise, let's hear from you. Did you find any aspect of it challenging? Praise. Okay, if Praise is not speaking. Orabile, please let's know. Did you find any aspects challenging when you were working on yours?
Hello. I wouldn't say that I found anything challenging, but it was interesting to try and work through it, like get it to third normal form, and yeah, just trying to categorize it correctly was interesting. I think it was a fair assignment.
Oh, all right. Thank you. So I'll just let me just uh start with the flat file. I think I sent the solutions on our Discord channel. If anyone can just help us share your screen and just open the PDF file. Let's look at it together. But if none can't, we can still work like this. But I would prefer if someone can just help us share your screen and open the PDF file, and let's work on it together. So from the PDF file, The flat file we had, let me see if I can get it. Okay. So our flat file contained about 7 columns. Okay, so the flat file contained 7 columns. We had the record ID, the student ID, student name, email, subject, exam date, exam score, grade, teacher, and teacher name. So let me okay. So now before I proceed, Oarabile, since you found it interesting, could you share with us how you were able to get to the third, get the from the flat file to its third normal form?
Yes, let me see. So we had the columns record ID, student ID, student name, email, subject, email date, email score, grade, teacher ID, and teacher name. So to try to get into third normal form, you would try to separate the different tables. So for students, you would separate them based on student ID, student name, and the email. Those 3 columns specify a specific student, and then you would have teacher ID and teacher name for the teachers, and then you would have another table for the subjects. So you would have subject ID, you would have the subject name. So yeah, and you would also have the teacher ID. I did not have teacher ID on the subjects table, so that is the
Okay.
mine. Yeah. Then for the grades table, yeah, you would just classify the different uh, grades by grade ID, the grade, minimum grade, and maximum grade. So from A to F. Then you would bring all of this data back together into a records table where you would have the record ID linking the student ID, the subject ID, exam date, and the exam score. And by doing that, you would have the normal form. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And that's generally the idea behind going from flat file to um uh putting the data in its stored normal form. Now the thing is this: when given a flat file like this, you just look at the columns that can stand on their own. Look for columns that can stand on their own without being reliant on the primary key of this flat file. In the flat file, our primary key here is the record ID. So to break it down, first of all, you look at the columns that can stand on their own. Now, like Oarabile said, you look at the student ID, student name, and email, and you see that these are 3 columns that can actually stand on their own because they identify one entity, which is the student. So that can form a table on its own. Then if you look at the subject, you see that the subject is not related directly to the record ID, which is the primary key. The record ID is like the exam, because this is like an examination table. So the subject is not directly related to the record ID. So that means we'll have to put the subject on a table of its own. also the subject is not related to the student. So that means we'll have to create a table for the subject. Now, going to the exam date, that is related to the record ID, is directly related to the record ID. So that two of them will be on a table. The same thing with the exam score. The exam score is directly related to the record ID, which is like our exam ID. So this three of them ought to be on one table. Then coming to the grades. The grade can be treated in two ways. From the grade, you can only get your grade from the exam score, because your score determines your grade. I mean, that's how schooling is. Your score determines your grade. Now we have two options on how to present the grade in our database. It's either we omit it entirely, or we put it on a separate table of its own. Now, if we omit it entirely and we need the grade, what we are just simply going to do is to use like a case statement to assign grades to each score. Now, when using a case statement, that means we're not going to put the grade on as a table on our database. Our database will only contain the exam score, while nothing concerning the grade will be written there. Now, alternatively, if we want the grades to be in our database, we now have to put it on a separate table. Now, in this separate table, that is where we will now define the minimum and maximum score. Instead of using a case statement, to say case when exam score is between 100 and 80, I think that's okay. Case where the exam score is between 90 and 100, then A. Now, rather than putting that case statement in our SQL query, we simply put it in as a table in our database. So what we just need to do is to check where the score falls into, and it will give you the grade when you use a join, when you join the tables. So for us to get the grade in our database, that's when you need to impute your figures, which is the minimum and the maximum score. So in this case, we do not need a case statement again when working to determine our grade in when we're setting up queries to determine our grade. So that's how the grade is represented in our table. Then coming to teacher ID and teacher name. Of course, the teacher ID and teacher name, they identify one person, which is the teacher. Now, why did I add it in the subject table and not in the records table? The reason is this: a teacher has nothing to do with exam, except he or she is supervising the exam. But in this case, the teacher here is not the person supervising the examination, but somebody that handles the subjects. So here, the teacher here are those who handles the subjects. So since we have three subjects here, we have three teachers. So this means that a teacher is related to the subject. So you can only talk of a teacher in this case when you're talking about, when we want to know the subject the person is handling. And that's why the teacher ID is represented in the subjects table and not on the records table. Because if we put it at the records table, we'll see that the teacher ID is not related to the records ID. Assuming the teacher was acting as a supervisor for that examination, then we can get the teacher ID in the records table. But in this case, the teacher is not acting as a supervisor in that examination, but the teacher is the one who handled or who handles the subjects that are indicated in our flat file. So here the teacher and the subject is related, and that's why the teacher ID is in the subjects table. So in all of this, it's all depends on the business case and how the
Please, ma, in case you can hear us, you are muted. You are muted, please.
can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear
Sorry
you
for
now.
that. How long have I been?
Let's say like a minute plus, or let's say two
Oh,
minutes.
okay. Thank God. I thought what happened the other time happened again. Thank you for bringing that to my notice.
Okay.
So I think you heard when I mentioned the ERD part.
I don't think we've got it. Have we? I'm not sure. I didn't hear the ERD. I think the last thing you were saying were you were talking about teachers as a supervisor or something.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So what I was actually trying to point out why the teacher ID is or should be in the students table and not in the records table, because a teacher handles a subject. So assuming the issue of the teacher here is that is the teacher who supervised an examination, then the teacher ID will be in the records table. But since the teacher here is someone who handles the class, the subject, that means the teacher ID will then be in the subjects table. If we have another column that said probably supervisor with supervisor's name and supervisor ID, then that would come into the records table, because it means this that teacher or that supervisor supervised that one examination. So that's why the teacher's ID should be in the subjects table. So that's how we break down from a flat file to a third normal form. And then going to the ERD diagram, it's simply a representation of the 5 tables. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's a representation of the 5 tables with their relationships. And from there, we can see that the subject, the teacher ID is related to the subject, is linked to the subjects table. The subjects table in turn is linked to the records table, while we have the students table linked to the records table and the grades table linked to the records table. Then following it is the DDL commands, which I believe we all should be very, very conversant with at this point. The DDL commands are to create the various tables that have been outlined and to insert the records in the various tables. So we have the DDL commands for the 5 tables to create them, and also to insert the records into the 5 tables. Then next we're looking at the star schema. Now the star schema is simply getting one facts table, and every other table in your database would be a dimensions table. Every information you need about a table will be at that in its table, while you put the primary key of that table to your facts table. So if we have 20, no matter the number of tables we have in a database, the number of tables we have in our database, if we're operating on a star schema, it simply means that we're going to have one facts table, and all other 19 are directly related or directly linked to the facts table. So we created 5 tables in our third normal form, but this time around, instead of the teacher table to be linked to the subject table, the teachers table is now linked to the records table, and that's what makes it a star schema. Now the only table that was added here is a date table, and the date table is there because I think we should know that the star schema is used in a data warehouse, and the end users of a data warehouse are the data analysts, the machine learners, and some other persons. But there are technical persons who use the information from our from the data warehouse to make predictions, or to know reasons, and to get insights from our data. So to put a tables in our data warehouse, we need to put it in the best form that will be good for analysis and for making predictions using AI or machine learning. So, and that's the importance of a date in a data warehouse. To get insights, you'll always need to compare one period to another period. You need to compare performance from one month to another month. You need to compare performance within a range, a certain range, within a certain period. So to get this well, we need to add a dimensions date table. This is just like our regular table. The only thing is we'll get the only difference here is that you now break it down from, you break down the date, the main date, the complete date itself. You break it down to year, to month, to day, to quarter, and any other period that is needed to get to get insights from our data, from the data stored on our data warehouse. So the only additional table here is the date table. Every other thing is as previously seen in the third normal form. And this date table, I believe we handled how to create date tables in our last session. So that takes care of the date table and the star schema. Then the DDL commands following it are just the DDL commands to create the various tables outlined in our star schema. And then the insert statements are simply to populate the records into the tables that we have created. So that is that for the assignments that we were given. So that's it for the assignments we were given. And I want to believe So, and at this point, I want to believe that the at least to a very, very huge extent, it is clear for those who were asking questions that to a huge extent, how to formulate this normal forms and star schemas from a flat file or from a business question is very clear for those who had issues concerning it. So if there is any place that isn't clear, please let me know. If anyone has any question concerning that, please go ahead and ask your question and let me know. Okay, sorry. No, I'm not sharing my screen, Kosim. I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, so apparently, since no one is saying anything, I want to believe that everything is clear. And no matter the business case we are handling, no matter the question, we should be able to, at this point, break it down to its normalized form and to also represent that same scenario in a data warehouse using the schema best suitable for it, be it a star schema or the snowflake schema. So at this point, I want to believe that everybody here has taken note of that and fully understands that. So next we are going to Steve. Okay, Steve, let's hear your question, please, before I move on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just trying to like think the questions in my head and compare it to what I did for the assignment. Okay, so for your own
Okay.
fact table, for your star schema, the fact was a records table. Okay, but mine, I did like an exams table that had exam ID, subject ID, student ID, subject ID, teacher ID, date ID. So I think when we learned about is it that's normalization or and denormalization, we're told that we should reduce the tables, the flat file now to its the lowest form where it cannot be divided. So I didn't think about is it necessary to create a grades table or we can the grades can be because mine did not have a grades table. It's just subjects, dates, students, and teachers.
Okay, so the grades table you're asking of, is it the one in the third normal form or in the star schema?
I think both stored normal form and star schema. Mine didn't have it. I just did. I think I did the rest. I
Okay,
just did exams table, subjects table, teachers table, students table.
okay. But your grades was in the exams table.
Yes, yes, it was in the exams table.
Okay. Now, when going back to the third normal form, the aim of this is to ensure that every information on that table, when I mean on that table, I'm now talking of the main table now, being the records or the exams as you put yours. So every information on that table must depend solely on the ID, the primary key of that table, which is the exams table, the exam ID in your
I did,
case.
yes, yes,
So if you look at grades, the grade is not dependent on the exam ID,
yes.
right?
No, no, it's not.
It's not a hair. Exactly. The grades is not dependent on the exam ID. The grade is determined by the exam score,
Yes,
right? And the
yes,
exam score is already in the table, which is the exams table. So
yes,
adding the grade in the exam table, it's uh it's not putting it in its third normal form. Now the third normal form is to reduce repetition to like zero when
yes,
you're talking of it's to reduce repetition and to reduce redundancy in the main tables in our database. So why the grade will not be in the exams table is because it is not dependent on the exam ID. It is dependent on the exam score. And the exam score is already represented in the exams table. Now, assuming we didn't have the exam score in the exam table, that would be different. But since we have the exam score, which should really be in the exams table, since we have the exam score on the exams table, then the grade has to be represented elsewhere. Now, I mentioned that we can represent the grade in two ways. We can either choose to omit the grade entirely, since we already have the score. Then how we are going to get the grade is whenever we are writing our queries, we simply use a case statement. Did you get to that point?
Yes. Yes. I was listening to that point. Yeah.
Okay, so now since we want it to be in our database, it cannot be in the exam table because clearly it is not dependent on the exam ID, which is the primary key of that table we are talking about.
Yeah.
So since it is not dependent on it, rather it is dependent on something else, another column on that table, we need to remove it from that table and simply put a relationship, which is the grade ID.
Okay.
Simply put something that will point to our grades table into the main table, and that thing pointing at it is the grade ID.
Yes.
Is that okay now?
Yes. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so at this point I just want to add that we are going to this week we're going to okay, this is the week that we're going to go for our certification. So please, if you haven't watched the link that I sent to the group, if you haven't watched the video or gone through that page, please go through it this week. We are going to be assigned that today. So by this time next month, I want to believe that all of us will be certified associate data engineers. So that's what we're going to be looking at next, which is this week that we're going into. We'll be looking at attempting and getting our certification. So if you have done the skill assessments and there is any place that you fell short, please just go back, revise it. Then let's come out strong this month, because this month our aim should be getting the certification before forging ahead to continue with our data engineer in Python career track. I know I pointed that out and I said that in the channel. So please go back. If you have any issues in the skill assessments, go and revise the places that was pointed out, so that we all have this one attempt to get the data engineer in a associate data engineer in SQL certification, and we'll move on to Python from next week. So today will be like our final class on SQL. From next week, we'll be talking about Python. Okay. Oh, no, sorry. We have one more project to handle, which will be given this week. Then after that, we'll be talking about Python and every other thing. So this will be our last class in SQL, I think. Then lastly, I was meant to drop the project, because I know I've mentioned that we're going to do a capstone project at the end of every career track. We will do a capstone project. Now I was meant to drop that this week and to explain more on it today, but our time couldn't permit me to do that. So I'll try. I'll definitely drop it this week. I don't know what day yet, but I'll definitely drop it on our channel this week. which is the capstone project for SQL. And anyone who has any question, of course, you can always ask in the channel and I'll be there to clarify it. And aside that, if you have any question concerning the project, that's after going through it, if you have any question which you want to ask, you can still ask in our next session next week. But aside that, you can ask in the channel, and whenever I'm available, I'll respond to that. So I think that should be all for today. uh I'm not, I'm somewhere right now, so I really don't have that much time now. So I believe that should be all for today. If there is anyone that has any question, or you need me to explain anything further, please let me know. Let me send the attendance now, please, so you can just write your attendance. I believe that's the form should be open at this point. So anyone who has any question concerning anything whatsoever, just let me know, please. And yes, before I forget, all right, thank you very much, Prof and Iowa. Before I forget, next week is when the 2 months will elapse. The requirements for the 2 months has already been outlined. 4 key requirements, which I know as a person, as an individual, you can keep track of the number of courses that you have completed on DataCamp in the past 2 months. You can also keep track of the number of XPs you've earned, and the number of projects you've completed, and the number of classes that you have, breakout sessions that you have attended. These are things you as an individual can keep track of. So at the end of next week, you should know where you fall if you have faulted in any of these requirements. However, anyone that has any issue whatsoever, if you didn't meet up to any of these requirements and you have a very good reason, just send me a message. Send me a message on Discord and we'll see how we can go about that. So I've sent the attendance, and if anyone has any question or any query whatsoever, let me know. If not, I think we'll have to call it a day at this point. Okay, no one is talking. Oh, John, okay. John sent, he said, you haven't really been following the breakout calls. Okay, so is there a reason? John, could you please
Um,
unmute and
yes, good
okay,
evening. So,
good evening.
I basically just, will I say I just relocated. I haven't really been anywhere with steady network. I've only been able to mainly follow the assignments. So I've
Okay.
just been able to put myself somewhere with like really good network. That's why I'm even on the call this evening. So I haven't really been. Most times, whenever I get in, I'm not able to stay long enough to even do attendance. I just come in. Then most times I try to listen. There's a lot of break in the transmission, if I can put it that way. So that's the main reason I haven't been
Oh,
following the call. But every other thing I've been following through.
okay, that's fine. Do you know what? You're on the Discord channel, right?
Yes.
Okay, please just send me a DM and just tell me the number of times you've attended or something. Yeah, just
This
send me a DM
funny
in
thing.
case.
This is the only time I've filled attendance.
Oh, just today?
Yes.
Okay, that's like 1/8 then.
Yes.
All right. Send me a message. Let me send me a message on Discord.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I saw some message. Can we register for our certification from next weekend? Yeah, yes, you can. I will, as usual, I think it's part of the assignments that I ought to assign, that I will assign today. That's getting our certification. And we have, like has been mentioned, we have 1 month. The certification itself, once you register, you have 1 month to complete it. If you don't complete it within that 1 month, you will have to re-register. So I want us to be on the same track. So you get to register now, and at least in less than a month, you pass and will start concentrating on other things. So you can register next week, but it will all be assigned today. So if that's all, I think we're going to call it a day. If that's all, let's call it a day, please, and let's meet again next week, same time, 6 p.m. West African time. Thank you all for your time today, and thank you for your cooperation. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant Saturday evening.
And you too.
Thank you.
Hel- Hello, everybody. Is something happening? Are we waiting for something?